So in the summer, well, basically in the start of the 1990s, there was a drought in the Horn of Africa on the east coast of Africa. That drought left a lot of crops dead, which resulted in famine, which started to lead to starvation. That's basically how this thing progressed. By 1992, you had hundreds of thousands, and I mean several 100,000 people in Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia that were already dead, literally just starved to death. Late 1992, the United Nations and the US said, hey man, we've got to do something. We can't just watch these people die. So, and you, if you've been around and some of your audience is a little bit older, you'll remember those Aid for Africa, huge international events that were going on, trying to send help over there because the continent itself was just devastated. December of 1992, United States Marines landed on the beaches of Somalia, and they started to push inland, and their job was to open up supply routes so that the United Nations can hand out food. And when I say food, I mean like a bag of beans, bag of rice, and just enough to keep you alive for one day. About a dozens of United Nations countries showed up, and most of the forces were devoted to Somalia. That's where the famine was the worst. But also, Somalia didn't have a government, no police force, no military. So it was basically the Wild Wild West. Anybody with a gun could do whatever they wanted to do. And in the spring and summer of 93, a couple of warring factions started to fight one another to become the most powerful dude in Somalia. And one or two of those warring factions started to target United Nations workers. Summer of 93, Mohammed Farah Aidid, who led the Haber Getter clan, started to ambush U.S. supply convoys. He started to attack food distribution sites. And in June of 93, he ambushed and murdered 24 United Nations workers from Pakistan. This caused the UN Security Council to meet together. And the Security Council said, hey, we got to do something about this guy. We can't let this event stand. So the United States responded with Task Force Ranger. That was my unit, very, very small, very surgical package. So a company of Rangers, a helicopter unit from Kentucky, and special operators from all branches of service up and down the East Coast. We all went to Somalia. We're not there to hand out food. We're there to kill or to capture Aidid and take down the top leadership from his clan and kind of remove them from the equation. That's what caused us to go to Somalia.
So is that technically considered, that's not then considered a peacekeeping mission, right? Because you're there for direct military action.
Great question, David. So all of the forces, U.S. and United Nations forces that were in Somalia before we showed up there were under United Nations operations in Somalia, Part 1. UNISOM is the acronym for it. When we showed up, this is definitely not peacekeeping, and we are not there to hand out food. We're going to kill or capture some people. So they have to do a second phase of the operation. We show up under phase 2, which is kill or capture. And it's just this very small surgical force that goes in there to kill or capture. Everybody else is still in the country to hand out food and to try to stop people from starving to death.